Special Education Interviews, Andrea Jones, Module 3. During the interview process, I chose 3 people who were at the middle school level. Only one is at my school, the paraprofessional. There's another special education teacher within our district at the same level of teaching, and then a vice principal from another district. First question, what are the child find procedures and processes and resources available? As a para, she felt like this was really not part of her job description, because she is a parent and she has a student with an IEP, so she's very familiar with the process. When her child was identified, she said the teacher would work closely with the teacher and the counselor to help with the procedures and identifying the child's rights and what kind of their plan would look like. As a SPED teacher, identification at middle school level, the SPED teacher is not involved until we're actually at a level 3 during the SIT process. It's based off of collaboration of the teacher's observations, any classroom work, any common assessments. Once we get to the level 3 and we decide as a team that additional testing is needed, it could be social work, SPED, or school psych, or if not all. Within our district, it's kind of, and I never knew this, but it is new for our SPED teacher. He said that once the school psych does an IQ test and their ability matches, even if they're 2 grade levels or more below, it still probably will not qualify for SPED at that point. And from an administration's point of view, they're also part of the SIT kind of they call it CARE, but it's like a SIT team process. And then she sits in bi-monthly with each team to kind of make sure she's on top of what things are going. But again, that collaboration with the teachers, and at any time there's a recommendation from parents, there has to be follow through to see if there's a general need and to address their concern. And the other resources, especially at middle school, the counselor is a great resource just to support not only the student but also the parent, and to know that they're not alone and to point them in the right direction if they need more resources, or just to know that they're being heard. Most challenging part, and I look at all 3 of these, and education is challenging, it's hard, but for paras I think it's really hard because there really is a lack of training. She had stated that she had gotten a handbook on one day and the next day the kids came. So just really not having any training and knowledge of all the different disabilities and just kind of learning on the job opportunities. She said she really hasn't had any interaction with that administration except last year at the end of her evaluation. They don't really address her. She doesn't address them. She kind of does her job kind of thing. She feels like that might be something that she would like to see happen, so that would make just feel like she's a part of the team. From the SPED teacher's perspective, they're becoming more and more students who are identified with such diverse needs, and just really having those individual plans for more and more students. And there are in their school right now, they do not have a CBR program, but he has a number of students who are qualified CBR. And he said, I feel like I'm a program within a program, because the parents have opted not to send them to the different school within our district, but wanted to keep them at their home school. So that's another challenge for him as well. And in our district, we utilize paras, and for he and another, his counterpart, another special education teacher, they organize 10 pairs a day, making sure they're reaching students' hours and just getting coverage where there's needed. And admin, just the meeting all the needs. There's such a diverse array of disorders and needs that it's hard to maintain. And I had never thought of this, but it's so true that the mental health needs are just growing and growing. And at this point, most districts don't have the resources and the staff available to deal and to service those kids. Most rewarding part, and I love this, all 3 said students, when you're in education, that's probably really the reason you're there, and just everything. I love some of the examples. Our SPED teacher, the SPED teacher I spoke with said that last year he had a 6th grader that came in and he failed every class, every quarter, all sorts of different reasons why, but he has him still on his caseload this year as a 7th grader, and as of last quarter, he's passed all of his classes. So just a great that celebration of watching this kid grow and really struggle, and then now he's actually being successful. And from the admin's point of view, I love that she acknowledged that the special needs students and the relationship they're building with their regular ed teachers, and just that is such a celebration in itself, and the relationships they're building and the comfort level, and then just the passion they have for their kids. What advice do you have as on a supervision of SPED staff from the para's point of view, and really all, it's just that communication is key, utilizing time to be efficient on your job, to do follow through, to communicate, to give time to collaborate. Also from the SPED teacher is just be involved daily. I didn't realize this, but in our district we have an IRT, so if there's a new regulation or a change that we have in place in our district, that the SPED teacher has support to help them to follow through and to do it accurately. The other thing was just to include your SPED in your grade level and content level meetings, so they know what's coming down the pipeline. How do you work effectively with parents? As a parent, she said she does not interact at all with parents, and it's really not encouraged. And she felt like it's not encouraged in our district. For SPED teachers, communication is key. And I love this, that keeping positive communication, so that on every couple of days, so then when there is that tough conversation, whether it's a behavior or a grade, that the parents know that it's not always bad, but that every once in a while let's work through this kind of thing. And then admin is just, communication is just such a key component for success. How do you work with regular education teachers with students within the special needs within the classroom? Really, the hardest thing was for our para is just learn. Every teacher has a different expectations, so getting to know those and trying to be on the same page as teacher. What's the teacher want? What should I be helping them with? Am I helping too much? Am I helping not enough? Just kind of having a good balance for making the kids successful and challenging them, but at the same time not letting them struggle. As a SPED teacher, is working together to meet their needs, and our school does the same thing, but typically our regular ed does most of the accommodations unless they need assistance, but because they are the expert in the content area. And then accommodation wise, if we needed a video cast or something, then our SPED teacher will do that for us. And just that constant feedback. Is this working? Is it not working? Do we need to adjust? That kind of thing. And one of the things in middle school I felt like with our SPED teacher is really an organizational piece, and I think that has been a key in helping as well. And again, for admin is meeting, staying on top of it, checking in with all students. I know we do that at our school as well, constantly. What advice would you have for first year administrator for para? Just create time for training. On the dissertation that we read, I love that one of the principals had said that they had a lunch meeting, or had an eating lunch, like a working lunch, and I think that would be a great thing to utilize for paras. And I know time is always a factor, but including them in the team, I think that's really, and knowing that they're valued and their inputs valued. Advice, having an open door policy. The SPED teacher that I interviewed, he said that he meets with his admin daily, just to check in, just to make sure that the admin's up to speed on all their students, and they're in the know basically of anything that's going to happen. And from an admin's point of view, she had mentioned that knowledge is power. The more you know, the better you can assess and kind of help with situations before they even come. Communication and then working as a team is key. What do you think the role of special education teacher and the principals look like within the school? They're pretty much all very accurate. For all three, it was just helping students reach their goals. Also, and from a SPED's point of view, supporting the regular ed teacher, collecting data and updating the team on again, where we're at, what do we need to do? Do we need something different? From the principal, I thought this was awesome. Following up with students as growth, and are they providing enough resources for those students? And I love this part as an admin. We've had this happen before, but when they're sitting in on IEP meetings and in any kind of meeting, that they are not just a face, but they're actually involved in what's going on and not just on their computer or doing other busy work. What characteristics would you seek in an aspiring administrator in regards to special education? The pair said, ideally would be someone with a special education background and just the experience. The communication, our sped teacher's communication, open door policy, and then also being able to identify roles ahead of time before it even starts. What's the sped teacher's role, social worker's role, any of the other staff, and making sure that nothing is getting left out. And as admin, and I love this, is just willing to do what it takes for students, parents, and staff to make those kids successful. Do you feel like, I kind of brought these questions in because I was curious after our last assignment. Do you feel you're adequately prepared for your position? The pair absolutely said no. She was given a handbook on orientation, and the next day they had students. And so it was just kind of learning under fire. Our sped teacher, however, he felt extremely prepared. He did his undergrad at Emporia State, and he said the practicum, he was rocking and rolling when he got into his regular classroom, because he said his supervising teacher helped prepare him well, and his classroom work also helped him. And again, over time, the hands-on experience and the on-the-job training also helped him learn. In administration, the principal from the district, she said yes, she felt very well trained, but again, also she said that most of it was on-the-job learning, but just the general background for special education. And this just intrigued me as well. I just was curious about the SPED citations. I had never, honestly, I'm a seasoned teacher and I've never even heard of that. But I knew it was there, but I had never experienced it. So, of course, the pair had not. But our SPED teacher, he said he has not had any experience with any citations before. But in, for example, our district, it typically is handled, if there is a citation, it's usually handled at district level. And then if there needs to trickle down, then we make sure we're doing everything needs to be done legally. And the administrator said, yes, this is the first time in 25 years she's ever experienced this, but there's an issue because one of the students, or one of the 3-year evaluation did not come into effect on time, so it's 2 days late. So the parent is looking for legal action. So again, that's all she could tell me at this point. But it's just a learning process, and so she's learning as it goes through. So. And then the last part was just, how would this impact me as a future school leader? I just think overall the biggest piece is that listening component, providing opportunities to learn. And that, again, that even goes with our paras. I think that's huge. I think that would cut back on that turnover rate, because paras tend to not stay on a regular basis. And then also that making a priority that everything is student-centered, that would be helpful. And then again, as an administrator, modeling these behaviors, and so that everyone involved can hopefully follow suit.